Moving on, because yet again there's more concerning news for our armed forces as defence experts, including former Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, have warned that our armed forces are unable to protect Israel from Iranian ballistic missile attacks. RF Typhoon jets are believed to lack the weapons needed to repel such an attack, including the one launched by Iran on Tuesday when it fired almost 200 long-range missiles in its biggest assault yet on Israel, where the UK was relegated to a supporting role. And we can now speak with the former Member of Parliament and soldier, Bob Seeley. Bob, a delight to see you back on the show. It's been way too long, my friend. And you've written an excellent piece today about the Iron Dome in Israel. And in particular, you made a very compelling case of why you think the United Kingdom needs its own Iron Dome. Bob, tell us more.
Well, look, do we need it today? No. But do we need it in 5 years? Maybe. Are we going to need it in 15? Probably. So we need to get started and get working on these things now. This isn't just my idea. We've had a commitment, Martin, to a ballistic missile defense radar for 10 years, but we have done nothing about it. And we keep putting off these decisions. Germany is looking at getting an Iron Dome system. And I'll come to the specs in a sec, because Iron Dome is actually only one part of this layered air defense system. But Germany is now getting one. Poland is now getting one. NATO is working together to have its skies covered. And we have a lot of the tech here. So it is in our economic interest as well as in our security interest that we are part of this program that builds out effectively a European or a British air dome or an air shield.
Bob, it sounds great in principle, but the fact of the matter is our armed forces is on its knees. We've got the smallest army since the Napoleonic times, the smallest RAF since it was formed in World War I. So few sailors, we're having to scrap ships. We can't even build HS2. Is it realistic that we've got the wherewithal, the ability or the money to build an Iron Dome?
Yeah, we have actually, and we should be careful about talking our country down. The armed forces are absolutely underfunded, but they still have a remarkable amount of good people and some pretty good kit. So do we need to be spending more on defence? Yes, because we live in an increasingly dangerous world and we cannot keep sort of penny pinching in the way that we've done without potentially catastrophic consequences. We have a lot of the tech for these air shields. So Sky Sabre, a medium range missile, could very much be part of that. In my old constituency on the Isle of Wight, we make the Royal Navy's radars in Cowes at the BAE site in Cowes. So we have some of the bits potentially of this puzzle. Just on the Iron Dome bit, Martin, as I'm sure some of your readers know, Iron Dome itself is the short-range air defence. Above that is something called David Sling, which is medium range, a bit like the British Sky Sabre. And the long range is covered in Israel by something called the Arrow missile system. And then they have the Patriot on top of that. So all of that makes up the Israeli defence shield. And actually, I mean, if you look at what they have achieved, thousands of missiles coming into the country this year, hardly any civilian casualties. I was in Kharkiv in Ukraine 3 weeks ago, and that place is being hit every night by some pretty horrendous missiles, but also very large bombs. And the Ukrainians don't have the air shield. And because of that, scores of Ukrainians are dying every month from Russian strikes on their cities.
But Bob, is the political will there to do something like this? It sounds great on paper, but we don't even have the ability to defend our own sea borders from the daily invasion of dinghies. Is the will there to do something this ambitious from the Labour government, or indeed any future one?
Is the will there from this Labour government? No, absolutely not. I mean, look, I'm not exactly going to be, being an ex-Tory MP, I'm not exactly going to be Labour friendly, Martin, but you don't have to be an ex-Tory MP to really be shocked by how truly awful this government is being. And I'm not just talking about the lies over the black holes. I'm not just talking about snouts in the trough from Keir Starmer leading by not setting an example, but also just the decision today on the Chagos Islands. I just think this government is surprisingly, breathtakingly bad. So no, I'm not expecting anything from this government. What I'm thinking is long term. If, as I hope, Kemi gets you to the final two and Kemi wins, but whoever wins the Tory leadership, we need to be thinking much more strategically about the long term future of our country, because clearly these student clowns currently in power, to put it bluntly, pardon my blunt language, they're not going to be thinking about this.
Bob Seeley, thank you for joining us on the show. And what a beautiful part of the world Isle of Wight is. Have my holiday there this summer. You take care and speak to you again soon. Thank you very much. Now, has Joe Biden committed yet another gaffe? Well, speaking to reporters, in the last few moments, the US president appeared to suggest that a retaliatory attack by Israel on Iran is not imminent. Just what the world needs. Joe Biden putting the fear into us. Well, we can now speak with our GB News Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark White, Joe Biden is being Joe Biden. Tell us more.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he's overstepped here, and I'm not sure that the Israeli government will thank him for revealing that any Israeli attack on Iran will not happen today. That's exactly how he phrased it to reporters. He was asked if he would allow Israel to launch a retaliatory set of strikes on Iran. He said, first of all, it's not for us to tell Israel that they can't strike. We merely advise. And then he said, and anyway, nothing is going to happen today. That's effectively giving the regime in Tehran that advance warning that, you know, if they do want to move assets, individuals, then there's not going to be any strike today. So I think, yes, it sounds as though he has overstepped here in terms of the information that he is now sharing with the world, and in particular, of course, that regime in Tehran. As far as the operations today are concerned, well, my alert system is going off again on my phone app, telling me of more attacks into northern Israel. 120 attacks or rockets that have gone across so far today, and the fighting is continuing and really quite intense in southern Lebanon in a number of communities. Another 25 villages in southern Lebanon told by the Israelis to evacuate and move out of harm's way as Israel takes the fight to Hezbollah. They're aiming to create effectively a buffer zone to push these Hezbollah terrorists further north of the Litani River, which would just give that sort of extra buffer zone, that extra bit of warning to Israel's air defence systems of any launches coming from southern Lebanon. And also news from the Israeli military as we now look at live images of the Lebanese capital, Beirut, with smoke rising from buildings in central Beirut. The IDF confirming that they struck what they say was the intelligence headquarters of Hezbollah, killing a number of operatives.
And Mark White, meanwhile, there are reports that Britain has been largely ineffective in its ability to assist both US and Israeli forces in terms of our RAF Typhoons relegated to a supporting role, and our Type 45 anti-missile destroyers would also struggle to respond in terms of our capabilities to assist. Is this an embarrassment for the United Kingdom, Mark?
Well, it's certainly a worry, I think, for the United Kingdom, for military planners, in terms of what might come from any adversary. You know, as far as ballistic missiles are concerned, they go up very high into the upper atmosphere, come down at high velocity in the terminal phase. And indeed, Iran was using the latest batch of hypersonic ballistic missiles that they have. So the missile systems on the RAF Typhoon aircraft out of RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus are just not equipped to deal with the ballistic missiles. Back in April of this year, when there was a launch of missiles and drones from Iran, Typhoons were able to shoot down some of those missiles because they were slower, low-flying cruise missiles coming into Iran. That is easier for both the Typhoons and those Type 45 air defence destroyers to deal with. But when you're talking about ballistic missiles, it's not a capability really that we have in terms of long-range ballistic missiles at the moment. The Royal Navy can deal with medium to short-range ballistic missiles, but it is a gap in our capabilities that, without a doubt, is a concern to military chiefs. They will want that gap plugged as soon as possible.
Mark Wyatt, an excellent summary as ever. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, as you can see there, live pictures on your screen of smoke rising over Beirut as dusk begins to fall over the city. Thank you, Mark Wyatt.